Hi, guys. Exciting news for season 4. The Thrive Tribe newsletter is for everyone and it's free.
To sign up for our newsletter and to get more out of Chasing Brighter and engage with our amazing community, go to chasingbrighter.com/newsletter to get the latest updates.
And every month we have freebies, so check it out.
Welcome to the Chasing Brighter podcast, the podcast created as a guide to make midlife the best life.
Are you ready to embrace the next chapter of your life with confidence and excitement? Your best life is just a listen away.
Hi, guys. Welcome to our final October episode. We've been focusing this month on confidence, which is so fun because Kelly and I think that midlife really is the time where we can live our best life. And we love trying to help other women live their fullest lives. And so to close our series out, today we really are learning how to build confidence through self-connection, which is something that's really close to our hearts.
When is the last time, Jess, that you felt completely comfortable in your own skin? No editing, no shrinking, no apologizing. I would say for myself,
I literally have to answer this.
Oh, yes, okay. I would say for myself. I recently started a new project at work, and I did like a kickoff call, and I've done the same thing over and over, and I just sort of I kept it light. I keep it simple. I actually did 2 weeks, 2 back to back, and it was completely different projects. But it's like I've been around the block and I was very prepared for it. And I felt completely comfortable and confident. And I didn't even think about it. It's like that they talk about like that flow state, right? Like you're just in it and you're going, and I'm not worried about anything. And when I got done with that call, one of my colleagues was like, wow, you did such a great job. And I was like, thanks, but I didn't think about it at all. I just kind of was in my moment.
Yeah. I think it's funny. So I've launched another podcast, Healing is my hobby in the mental health space. And when you and I, tell me your thoughts on this, when you and I launched Chasing Brighter, I feel like it was a soft launch. And we were like, you and I just had a podcast and we weren't telling anybody about it. And so now I'm like, hey, there's a new podcast, new podcast. And when we were back with our family in Kansas, Gabby was like, if you say Chasing Brighter one more time, I kept saying like, oh, we talk about that in my podcast, Chasing Brighter. And so I think I'm just feeling more confident in any project I'm involved in. And I'm not hiding it, and I just don't I'm releasing it and letting it go, and I don't feel self-conscious about it, where I'm just I'm just unapologetically me, and I'm just trying to do my thing. And so love me, hate me, whatever it is, if I feel good about it, then that's my reality.
I love that. It's about kind of discovering who you are. I think that's what is such a fun thing about moving into midlife, right? Is us kind of we're rediscovering who we are, and we're able to stand with our truth unapologetically and just be who we are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun in that way because maybe up until that moment, we're spending our time trying to fit in, trying to find something. Whereas now I feel like either it's my vibe or it's not. And sometimes things morph and you think somebody's not your vibe and you get to know them. But I'm not looking at it as there's something wrong with me. Right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not connecting with that person, and I'm just going to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Letting things go. And I think we're bringing all the tools that we've talked about this month together. Because like you're saying, true confidence doesn't come from outside, right? It starts with the relationship with yourself. And self-connection is tuning into your needs, your values and desires rather than looking outward. So like you're saying, if someone doesn't vibe with me, that's okay because my values are internal. I don't need external validation to tell me who I am. right? People often think that confidence is about being loud, bold, fearless, but it's being grounded in yourself. And just like you're saying, so then you show up authentically. Do you have a moment where you feel like your confidence shifted?
Mm, Let me think of this. Well, I think, even owning or like doing this podcast itself, Jess, like a lot of what even these episodes, we're spending all this time researching a topic and really learning a lot about stuff. Some things we know, some things we don't know. I feel like what I've learned is that I can learn quickly and become very confident in a lot of knowledge about stuff. And it kind of goes back to learning like it's not really faking it till you make it. It's really kind of channeling who I am, what I know, how I can learn from this and weave it into my authentic self. And I think part of that is just I've learned who I am, right? Part of that's like learning who you are and what you're capable of. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And I think I go back to Glennon Doyle's book Untamed, where she talks about tapping into your knowing.
Yes.
And I think for me, introspection has helped me to not take things personally. I go back to that book, The Four Agreements, and in there they talk about like you're the director of your own movie, like you create your own reality. And when you take things personally, you're allowing other people to tell you who you are. So that self-connection is where you tell yourself who you are. And I think because of that, like when we say confidence isn't being loud, right? It's being grounded. And so then I feel like I'm externally quieter and I'm more impeccable with my word. And because I am talking less, when I do speak, I feel powerful, right? I feel that my words have power because I'm impeccable with my word. And I think that really helps me. Just the introspection helps me remember who I am, being quiet in myself. And so then when I do decide to talk, it's with confidence and authenticity.
I love that.
So, how do you know you're disconnected from yourself, right? How do you know? So, we're going to give you some examples and just kind of run through them. And one is constant people pleasing, which is something we talked about in our previous episode.
Another is feeling drained because you're living for others.
Having negative self talk or feeling like you don't measure up.
Numbing with distractions instead of tuning in.
We talked a lot about this. I had been doom scrolling a lot, and I've really stopped that after we had an episode about doing a values audit. So tuning into myself really helped. When we think about all of these examples, these aren't signs that you're broken, right? These are just red flags or signals that your inner compass is calling you home, and it's time to just take a moment and tap back into yourself.
I had a moment this weekend. This weekend was the St. Helens Carnival. And it's like one of my funnest things in the city with the kids because it's 4 blocks from our house and it is just it's a carnival. And so the kids ride rides and they can just roam within a, 3-block radius with their friends. And it's always a very fun time. There's a beer garden too, and there's food. And so you can the kids are old enough. I can hang out at the beer garden with friends while they run around, do their thing, and just keep an eye, particularly Beckett, because Wes was old enough to do his own thing. And Wes was walking back and forth and doing all the things by himself. But my husband, Brian, didn't have anything to do at all with the carnival this weekend. And so I felt uncomfortable having Beckett be there. Brian didn't seem to care, in my view, that he was there. And Beckett was like wanting to walk from our house over there and just be there all the time. And I was like, I don't want him to like be there by himself. I was leaving him there for periods of time. And the whole weekend, I just kind of felt weird. I felt like this thing where I was like, I haven't been spending time with Brian, my husband, and I'd like to hang out with him, but I also want my kids to have fun. And I was constantly like being pushed and pulled both directions. And it kind of came to a head on Sunday because we had this grand plan that we're just going to eat dinner at the carnival because they have this great Polish dinner usually. And so I was like, Brian, come eat the Polish dinner. Let's have a beer. Beckett will finish out the rides and then we'll walk home all together. Big happy family. And we get to the carnival which they didn't have the Polish meal that we were expecting because they serve it at noon and not 4 o'clock, and they already sold out. So Brian's like, I'm out. And I was like, I just really was struggling. Like I couldn't figure out how to please him and then have Beckett be there. And then there were other friends that were planning to be there. And I also had to eat. And it was the weirdest feeling. I just felt so uneasy and I didn't know what to do because I was almost torn between pleasing my friends versus my husband in some way. But it was only my idea because I don't think anybody really cared what I did.
Yeah.
But I noticed how I felt so disconnected with who am I and what I want to do. And that's the thing is, I think that's how I feel about this is how you feel. How do you know when you're disconnected is when like you sit and you think, this isn't what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we use the example of when I stayed home and didn't go to Dominic's baseball game, I kept checking in with myself and I was like, no, I support this decision. This is what I want to do. And so, like you're saying, it's like keep checking. And sometimes it is, no, this is what I want to do. This is okay. It's just uncomfortable because I'm used to people pleasing. Or
Yeah.
maybe it
Yeah.
is like, no, this is uncomfortable because it's not aligning with me. And so this kind of guides us into these 4 core practices we want to help you build so that you can continue learning about building confidence with self-connection. So one is quiet the noise, right? And that goes back to, I'm obsessed with the 4 agreements. The second agreement, don't take anything personally, right? Like take time in quiet and make sure that the story that you're telling yourself is your story and not from the outside.
Yeah. And, this can be, checking in with yourself. How am I feeling? What do I need? It could be anything. This is about you just kind of exploring what is it that I feel? What does that mean? What do I feel like I need? How would that feeling change if I did something else? And just really kind of sitting in those moments to kind of reconnect with what's going on inside.
And that's where we can use journaling, mindfulness, or meditation to reconnect. A mindful practice I love so much, I know I've talked before, is that diamond painting. And it's such a quiet,
Mm-hmm.
mindful thing. And so last year and this year, I got a diamond painting project for that's a Halloween picture. And my youngest and I were doing it. And he kind of struggles with anxiety. And so we were just doing mindful practices and just sitting in the quiet, which I think is so wonderful. And so sometimes it can be doing a puzzle, sitting
Yeah, I was going to
quietly.
say, I
Those are,
love doing a puzzle. Even just some grounding practices, right?
yeah.
Where you kind of place your hand on your chest. Maybe you're taking a deep breath. Maybe you're doing some breathing exercises and just really kind of bring yourself to that calm, quiet point.
Yes. And the 4th core practice is honoring your values. I love so much. I've talked about it so much. I loved our episode where we mentioned a values audit and it just blew my mind and has changed my life. And, just kind of what matters most versus where your time goes. We talked about it. This was our September episode, but like, does your schedule or planner reflect your values? And I had talked about how I was really doom scrolling every day. And I felt like for 4 hours, my time was being sucked away. And by really sitting and thinking about whether my time reflected my values has changed so much of my afternoon routine.
Yeah. And, if you do any research on this, what Jess and I learned is that at the end of the day, confidence grows when our actions are aligned with our values. And so
Yeah.
that's why we really talk a lot, especially this season, I think, about values and about checking your values and figuring out what does truly matter to you. It can be silly, it can be deep, but really just like what is important to you now.
Yeah. And I think create a confidence file, maybe in the notes section of your phone in your journal of compliments, achievements, moments you're proud of. This season has been a lot of big changes for my private practice. And so I'm trying to let myself accept it, let things soak in, and allow yourself to celebrate wins and be excited about it.
Yeah. I love celebrating wins. I think that's a really important one. My mother-in-law, Doris, is somebody who really inspired me. What I've learned from her is that she was always about finding ways and reasons to celebrate. And I think that's really important. And frankly, none of us do it enough.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's honestly, I think this is where you notice and you honor your own growth by
Yeah.
celebrating those wins.
Yeah. Doubt will creep in, and that's okay. That's why it's great to keep these core practices that we've talked about to help kind of explore what happens when doubt creeps in. And like we've talked about so many of these episodes this month, continuing to set those boundaries, say no with love, and recognize and tell yourself that boundaries are a practice of self-connection.
Yeah, I think this idea of saying no with love is really a good way to kind of put it, right? Which is like, thank you so much. I would love to. I wish I could, saying it in a way instead of saying like F no or something else.
Yeah.
But really sort of like, continuing to spread with that, even though you're maybe not telling somebody what they want to hear.
Yes. We have a journal prompt and reflection for you to ask yourself, when was the last time I felt most like myself? What was I doing? And how can I bring more of that into my daily life?
So, in summary of today's episode, we want you to know that being unapologetically you isn't about being fearless or loud. It's about being at home with yourself. It's not about perfection. It's about connection. And the more you come home to yourself, the more unapologetically and true you can live.
We'd love for you to try one of these practices this week and let us know how it went. And just to tease into November, episodes are going to be focused on gratitude and grace. So stay tuned.
Thanks for listening today.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Are you ready to chase brighter days ahead? Subscribe to Chasing Brighter now, and let's embark on this exciting journey together.